to us to decide if there is a political will or not to engage in that sense. And of course, if there will be in the future elections and the European Union Electoral Observation Mission, it will be up to them again to assess all the phases of the cycle, to assess the legal order that is in place, if it complies or not with the regional and international standard. But again, we cannot comment on this because it's something totally in the hand of the competent authority and in the hand, of course, of the civil society for what is relating with the recommendation dealing with the civil society. How to disseminate our conclusion. Let me show you, this is the report. This is the written version, but as I said, very soon we will have the digital version that will be available on the website. Of course, we are gonna do our best to make it visible at a regional, local, national, regional, and international level, because it's important also for us to disseminate the conclusion and that's why it's totally public. And we ask your support because you are the most prominent medias of the country, so we need also your help and support to give the right visibility, to give the most the widest access to the public opinion, because we hope that with this analysis, the data, the reflections, and upon all the recommendation would be a good food for thought for the civil society, for the relevant stakeholders, for the citizens of the Zimbabwe. This is a kind of legacy that we are leaving, of course, after all the efforts of the electoral process. And as I said, it was not an easy mission for us on many technical aspects because the lack of cooperation of the authorities pushed us to have additional efforts. But of course, we will continue to remain engaged, and we hope to see comments and to see you, of course, use all these data and information to raise awareness in general of the process itself and to the work of the mission that, I reiterate once more, was always complying very strictly with the code of conduct and the methodology we are adopting since many years, absolutely a consolidated one. Thank you.
And if I could just add that we'll also be disseminating this report to all of the interlocutors that we met during the course of the mission. We'll also be disseminating it via social media and via traditional media in the country. And so hopefully both the report and the recommendations will be available to a wide range of the public. The EU delegation is also on the ground and has copies of the reports that they will be handing out and discussing with interlocutors about their activities. And so hopefully through these mechanisms, there will be a wide range of information about what is in the report and the recommendations that we have made.
So we have time for two more questions. I believe the questions that were asked in the chat were in the meantime replied to sufficiently. So we had a raised hand from Shingirai Vambe from the very beginning. If you should still be here, could you please ask your question? Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your findings of the 2023-2024 August election of Zimbabwe. You in your presentation you highlighted that the environment actually puts the observers' lives at risk following the conduct by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission and some of the recommendations of the working ethics that they had put in place. I would want to understand, that is my first question. Going forward, do you think you would have more observers coming to observe elections in Zimbabwe? And what in your recommendation would you propose that things may be put in place so that the issue of safety and risk is taken into account? Then my second question goes to the issue and printing of ballot papers and participation of people with disability. in your observation, what did you see as observers on the participation of people with disability, on the printing of ballot papers, for example, those with visual impairments, and those probably with physical disability? In your report, in your observation, in the contents of the report, does it highlight part of this inclusivity? Thank you.
Yes, but we should focus on that.
Yeah.
I can take that if you want.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your questions on the safety of observers. I wanted to be very clear on that point. As I said, we have been victims of a massive defamation campaigns that started even before the deployment of the mission, even before that I, as a chief observer, arrived in the country. This was particularly harsh, led by some media that are, in some cases, state controlled by the government, or in any case, very close to the government. And in particular, there were some unacceptable, fake, disgusting, I would say, accusation, putting in question the moral integrity of our observers. Some of them were even saying that they were bribing people to push them in support of the opposition. This is simply ridiculous. And of course, it was my duty as chief observer to immediately dismantle this castle of lies and defamation. But as I said, we didn't see any official reaction by the competent authorities, by the government, saying and reiterating the fact that, first of all, we have been invited by the government officially, that there is an administrative arrangement, and that they know and they have always witnessed the professionalism, the commitment, the full respect of our methodology by the mission. This is something that we really deplore. We, of course, were paying all possible measures to protect our observers on the ground, because we have also security experts within our core team, and we were paying all the possible attention. But if there is a hate and defamatory campaign that is fueling, trying to fuel sentiment of anger against the people on the ground, nobody knows what could happen, even despite all the possible security efforts. That's why I said that from our side, we put all possible measures in place, but we would have expected a different approach by the authorities, because if you are inviting the guests, normally the first rule of invitation, and I know how much warm are the Zimbabwean people, how strong is the sense of the hospitality. The first precondition of an invitation is to ensure a full safety, and some of them, they didn't feel really safe in some moment in the deployment on the ground because of this climate of fake news, fear, and defamation that was held from the authority. On the participation of people of disability, with disability, our observers remarked in many cases that not all the police stations were adequate to ensure their full access of participation. But I will now leave the floor to my deputy, Dr. Beata Martin Rozumilovic, to go a bit further in detail on the data and in the mark on this issue of the participation of people with disability.
And can I also say, with regard to the safety of observers, it's not just the safety of international observers, it's also the safety of citizen observers on the ground who continue to do their work. And we are aware of the recent cases of abductions, of torture, of murder, as Mr. Castaldo mentioned. The EU spokesperson has made a statement that there is an expectation that there be a thorough inquiry into all of these recent abduction cases, and that culprits must be properly identified and brought to justice. This is also something that our EU delegation on the ground will be following up in terms of any connections to the elections and human rights abuses. So we look at this issue of safety of observers from all angles. But turning now to the question of participation of persons with disability, again, there is a full section in the final report about this very important issue. We find that unfortunately, no significant efforts were taken to grant persons with disabilities participation. Things that we note are that the CPRD has not been incorporated into domestic law. That's the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. We also reflect upon the fact that in the 1992 Disabled Persons Act looks at the point of view of welfare rather than a rights-based approach, and this is something that needs to be further examined. Many of the interlocutors told us that they would have preferred in the allocation of seats to see members from the persons of disability community directly elected as individuals rather than through the quota system that currently exists. But we do make a recommendation which is quite clear, and this is that there be an amendment to the Disabled Persons Act to effectively incorporate the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability into domestic law. And this is one of those 21 recommendations that we hope will be worked on in the future to bring the level of rights, both regional and international standards, into a better perspective in electoral processes in Zimbabwe.
So we have time for one more very short question, and I see a hand from Zimbabwe Chikanza. Excuse my apologies for my pronunciation. So Zimba, if you could just ask one question, a short one, that would be appreciated. Thank you. So he seems to be offline or seems to have technical problems. At this point, we conclude this press conference. This is the final press conference of the European Union Election Observation Mission to Zimbabwe. The question was asked also in the chat when the report would be available online. It will be going public in a couple of minutes. If it's not already online, you can find it on the website of the EU EOM. We will post the respective link also again on our Facebook page, and we will tweet that also on X. So you will have the respective link together with the link for the press release very shortly. Thank you very much for your attention, and have a good...
Yes, just as a very last statement, we would like to thank all of you for the participation today in our press conference, for your insightful, interesting question. And I would like to personally in public express my very warm thanks to the core team of my mission and to all the staff, to all the observers that have been deployed, because for me, it has been a real honor to lead such a mission with such a committed, professional, and absolutely passionate core team beside me. So that I wanted really to seize that opportunity to thank all of them, to thank all the embassies also that provide the help and support with their additional observer, and to